There's been a few times in my life where there was something that I just knew I had to do, even when everyone else around me said it was crazy. One of those things was leaving school and dropping out. One of those things was getting my first tattoo straight on my face. And another one of those things was going to Ukraine to meet a girl that I had been talking to on Instagram, all while the Russian military was lining up on the border. And that experience was one of the most meaningful and formative experiences of my life. And I want to share it with you. I want to share why I went, what it was like, what I was thinking, and why it was meaningful to me. Hi, I'm Suede. I'm an artist, musician, and a trip taker. I want to tell you about this Ukraine trip and the things that I learned and how it influenced my life. Taking it back, I'm on Instagram. New follower comes in. Who's that? Pretty girl. Shoot the DM. What's up? I start talking to this girl and we just hit it off. The vibe was, here's the thing. I've talked to a lot of girls on Instagram, okay? I've done a lot of DMs. And this conversation just had a different vibe and it was just stood out to me. It was a good vibe, a good banter. We're having a good conversation and it was just going well. And I just remember thinking, oh damn, this is different. Eventually, ask, oh, where are you from? Where do you live? And, she tells me she lives in Odessa, Ukraine. And so I'm just like, all right, sick. Yes. So anyway, so basically bye, right? Conversation just fizzles out. And I don't really think anything of it. I'm just like not trying to do a long distance thing or like go any further down that road. So later that day, I posted a video of me at this surf park of me just crashing into the wall and slamming into the ground. She replies to it and she's like, oh, when you slide in the DMs, but she lives on the other side of the world or whatever. So I was like, ha. And then the conversation just sparked back up, right? And we just started talking a lot. We would talk every day and the conversation just grew and it goes how it goes. Eventually, she was like, hey, you should come visit. I was like, no. In my head, I'm like, no chance, dude. Like, that's literally crazy. But then it literally just hit me like this feeling. It's so hard to describe, but it's just this feeling where I know that I have to do something. And like I said, I've encountered it a few times in my life, very few. Usually it's hard to know what to do and what's the right thing. But like this was just like, I was almost like full of like struck with fear and anxiety because I knew that I had to do it. And so yeah, it was just the same as when I left school. It was the same as when I got my tattoo. And there's been other experiences where it's hard to say, but it's almost like if God was just like, you need to do this. I almost feel like it's like Jonah, right? It's just like, you have to do this thing. I don't know why it feels like that, but it's so strong. And I feel when I've had that experience, I just feel so sure of it. The crazy thing is that like everyone in my life was like, dude, you're crazy for doing this. Like, what are you thinking? Like on the like travel advisory website for the government, it was just red, do not go. I'm seeing all these news articles about, the Russian military lining up on the border and all this. The things people are saying, like the rationale for why I'm crazy and why I shouldn't go, like all made sense on paper. I just couldn't shake that. Like, I just knew I had to go. And so I was like, whatever happens is gonna happen and I'm just gonna rip it. And I feel like I gotta do it. No one was like really mean, but you could tell when I'm like, hey, I'm going to Ukraine, people were just like, what? Like, what? So yeah, long story short, I do a bunch of research. I plan it out, I book a trip over there. I start ripping it on Duolingo. Next thing I know, I'm in Kiev on a balcony, smoking a cig and drinking coffee, like overlooking the city and just thinking, wow, life can change so fast and you can just all of a sudden be in a significantly different situation and you can like catalyze that change. And I just remember going, wow, like I live the same way, I'm just in my room, doing my thing, doing my job, same way every day, same thing. And then all of a sudden I just like decided to just yeet across the world and here I am. And I'm like, wow, I'm in this really nice apartment with this beautiful girl on the other side of the world. It stuck with me that there is the possibility for that intense change and you can kind of just choose to like veer off the track at any point you want. That's one of the first things that struck me. Also, I gotta mention that to this point in my life, I had traveled around the US a lot, but I hadn't been out of the country besides like Canada and Mexico. So I wasn't super well traveled or cultured or anything. So I fly in and I'm on my way to the Airbnb. The first thing I notice is like how big it is, right? And there's just so many apartments and I'm just thinking, I don't know exactly how to explain this, but it's almost like if you think of your own life, right? Like you're the center of your own universe. You have this whole life and your family and your friends and your job and everything you care about, etc. And then I'm just looking at all these houses and I'm like, there's all these other people that feel that same way. And have their whole life and are doing their thing. And how is there that many people? It just like broadened my worldview in an interesting way, because I'm like, it's almost like a copy of everywhere else, but it's just like the symbols are a little different. The sounds they make with their mouths are a little different. The way they do things are a little different. The customs and norms are a little different. Obviously different countries vary in different ways, but I was like, man, big world. Like, how is it such a big world? It's just crazy. And that was also something that just struck me, or like I remember left an impression on me. There was other things I noticed that they do over there, which I'm like, why don't we do in America? One of which being like Apple Pay is like the thing that they do, right? It's like you're at the restaurant and it's like they bring out a freaking thing and you beep your phone on there, and that's how you pay for things most of the time. And I'm like, this is way better than when they bring out the little book and you put your card in, they take it and bring it back and all this. I'm like, why are we doing all that? And two, with the restaurants, it's like, dude, this seems like not a big deal, but dude, coat racks. Like, my whole life, I'd either just hang my coat on my chair or like stuff it in a booth. Like, I've been stuffing my coat in my bag in my booth at a restaurant my entire life. And then I get there and, you know, we're going out to eat and stuff. And I'm like, there's coat racks and you hang your coat on the coat rack and you don't have to stuff it in the booth. And I'm just like, this is revolutionary. And I know it seems like a small thing, but there was a lot of things like that I noticed. Like one night we were out to eat and she was like, to the waiter, she's like, hey, can I get a blanket? And I'm like, what? And homie goes over to the cupboard and like just gets a blanket and brings it to her. I'm like, okay, that's a thing. Just interesting things like that. All kind of little nuances that were just struck me and stuck with me and were cool. You know, obviously the main thing I did was wanting to go meet this girl, right? That's the main reason I went, is I was like, I want to meet this girl. And, you know, she invited me to go. So I initially flew into Kiev. We stayed there for a couple days, maybe like 4 days or something. And then I wanted to take the train just for the, you know, experience. So we took the train back to Odessa. I stayed at her spot for a little bit, and then I had an Airbnb in Odessa for most of the rest of the time. And it's cool because the cost of living there is like relatively low compared to America. So I was able to get like a really nice spot and it was beautiful. You know, I was overlooking the Black Sea and it was just a vibe and it was super sick. And the thing is, with this girl, like, I had done a bunch of research and I'd heard a bunch from like, you know, like the whole passport bro thing, where the women in Eastern Europe are just different than Western women in a lot of ways. And a lot of times it's just more of a traditional vibe. It's like how I imagined it was for my grandparents back in the day. And I think this is too kind of what drew me to this girl, because she had that kind of vibe to a certain degree. And it's like, it's not that easy to describe, but looking back, I think that that's what was different. And so it wasn't exactly optimal, because I think when you think of those traditional roles, you think like the woman is like supportive. It's like the kind of supportive role, right? And then that's, you know, simplified, but it's the idea. And then with the man, it's like they lead and plan things and pay for things and provide and protect. It's like that basic gender roles kind of thing, right? And which is easy to criticize, but I think it's just more like that over there, how it used to be. And the thing is, this girl fulfilled those roles gracefully and like really well. And it's like she would, you know, if we didn't go out to eat, it's like we would wake up and she would just whip up breakfast for me like every day and, you know, cook for me and bring it to me. I'm just like, this is fire. It was amazing. And while I did just pay for everything we did, there was this element where, because I was in this new country and I couldn't speak the language, I didn't know what I was doing, she had to kind of lead a lot, right? And like figure shit out and like help me read shit or like do shit, which made it kind of this weird uneven thing that I feel like was it just wasn't optimal. Like I could feel the disconnect there, and how I was like, I wish I could like not have her have to do that, you know? And it did throw off the dynamic a little bit. And it was just interesting to kind of experience that dynamic and like what that felt like and what it was like. And she was a sweetheart and it was fine. It's not like it was the end of the world. Like it didn't matter that she had to help me and stuff, but I could feel this thing where it was kind of like, you know, it just wasn't exactly the vibe. It was interesting to watch myself like think about that and deal with that and whatever. So, and like I said, although I had a great time, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. The jet lag roasted me. You know, it's like a 12-hour difference or something. So that was rough adjusting. And then too, there was a lot of times where I was like really stressed and really worried, or like couldn't figure out my way, or just was not vibing or feeling great. Or it's not like it was just all like a super fun vacation. But the thing is, no matter what was good or bad or anything, at the end of the day, it just felt like so much like exactly what I needed at the time. Like and it's hard to exactly to describe, but from like going to a dinner theater and watching House of Gucci with a Ukrainian dub and no subtitles, to like experiencing this microcosm of a traditional relationship and seeing what that was like, or to like, I got this tattoo that says Ruletka in Russian, and it's like Russian roulette, you know, and because of like the riskiness of the trip and like how crazy it felt to me. And to the song that I got out of it. Like, I didn't mention this earlier, but while I was waiting to go overseas, I wrote this song like about how I was feeling in the experience and like the loneliness I was experiencing. I got this whole song out of like the feelings and the experience, which I didn't release at the time. I waited like a long time till a few months ago to actually even release the song, which is partially why I'm even making this video. And so even that, like, it all just worked its way out and felt so right. Like the whole time just felt like so much what I needed, and it just confirmed my suspicion that like that was my path and what I had to do. When it came time to go, we were actually back in Kiev near the end of the trip, and so she was gonna fly back to Odessa and I was flying back to the US. So we went to the airport together, and like, you know, I was telling her how much I hate goodbyes, and how like every time I have to do a goodbye, I try to like make it go good and like plan it and like think about what I'm gonna say and like how it's gonna go and like try to make it not suck. But it always sucks, and I'm just like, I freaking hate that, how it just always feels wrong, and I always like walk away saying, oh, I wish I would have said that, or did this differently, or said this differently, you know, or just something would have been different to make it better. And she told me this really interesting thing where she's like, there's this Ukrainian phrase. She translated it to something like, you can never get enough air when you're drowning. And I don't know exactly what it means in Ukrainian, but I was like, man, and it sounded so beautiful too. And it's like, that is exactly what it is, where it's like, if you're drowning, the point is that you don't have air, right? It's not like you don't have air. That's why it's drowning. And it's like the same thing with the goodbye. It's like, it never feels right or is going to be right because it's not right. It's like, it's the nature of it is that it's like that. And so that stuck with me. And I literally think about that all the time. And it was just another little gem that I got along the way. That I just like. I'm just like, I love that. And I think about that all the time. Yeah, and you know, at the end of the day, I think that after I went home, it's like things with her just kind of fizzled out, and we never really even talked about it. It just kind of went away. And I think we both just realized that like that situation was not gonna work. Our lives were too different. The distance was too crazy. And even though we had a great time together and enjoyed each other, I think that we just both know that it was just a thing for then. It was just a time for then, and it just went away. And I kept in touch with her, and I still keep in touch with her here and there and watch her. And like when the war did start and everything, she got out of there and she's safe and sound and she's doing fine. And then speaking of the war, here's the crazy thing. One of the biggest lessons I learned was, this was like so humbling. So I remember talking to my friend before I went, talking about the danger and that they were lined up on the border and everything. I remember literally saying verbatim to my friend, dude, even if Russia invades, it's not like they're gonna bomb the city or something. That is crazy. That would never happen. And then literally a month after I get home, I open Twitter to like see a missile slamming into an apartment complex. My worldview at that point changed forever. I had to eat my words in like such a big way. And I just remember like, man, I'm so naive, and like my understanding of politics and war and like the, you know, complexities of nations and all these conflicts is just so small. And I was judging it based on what I'd seen in my lifetime and experienced. And I was just so naive, and like it changed the way I look at everything, especially on the world stage from that point forward, because I was just like, oh my God, like looking at all the destruction that happened after that and all the fallout, I was just like, man, I just got out of there like right in time. And I was just like convinced that there was really not a lot of danger there. And I just think another reason why I feel like I needed to do that, because that lesson to me was just, it's like I couldn't have learned it that way, any other way, that strongly. And it really did change the way I see the world and the way I act in the world in a big way. All these things along the way kind of just solidified that idea to me that was what I needed to do at the time. Wrapping it all up, I want to leave everyone with this idea, like, just to go for it. You have one life, there's so much experience to be had, and it's so easy to like let other people's ideas of what you think you should do dictate what you do. But like, if you really listen and pay attention, there will be times where you probably have similar feelings of like, oh, this is my path. But you think, oh, because this person says this or that person says that, or I'm not supposed to do that. All these things from the world telling you what to do or not. And it clouds it. And I think a lot of people leave a lot of amazing life experiences on the table because they're just scared, or they're judging it based on what other people think or say they should do. And it's so easy to do that. And I'm not saying be completely reckless and just go be crazy, but if you find yourself with that feeling of like, this is my path, this is what I need to do, and everyone disagrees with you and thinks you're crazy or you shouldn't do it, I would encourage you to do it. Like, just go for it. And I think that the universe most likely will reward you for that. I know it did me, and that's why I wanted to share this whole thing, because I think that it changed the way I live, it changed the way I think. I would love to see more people finding their path and experiencing more life if they can, and just being less afraid. It's like that thing Will Smith said when he's like, all the best things that ever happened to me happened on the other side of fear, right? And I think that that's so true. And it's not like you should be completely reckless and disregard fear, but a lot of times you can look at that fear and be like, that isn't warranted. I'm just gonna go for it, and I'll be okay and figure it out. So that is what I would like to leave everyone with. And personally, like, I'm at a point right now where I'm selling all my stuff. I'm simplifying all my possessions in my life. And this winter, I'm just going overseas to Southeast Asia, and I'm living over there for a couple months to just try it out. And I'm gonna be traveling around and making music and just going nomad mode and just yeeting it, like just going for it. And I don't know what I'm even doing after that. I don't know where I'm gonna go after that. I don't know where I'm gonna live, but it just feels right for me at this time. And so I'm going for it. I'm just getting rid of my stuff, simplifying my life, and I'm just gonna go do what I feel like I should do and what I wanna do, even though people might say that's crazy or weird or reckless or whatever. And so that's where I'm at right now. And you know, my goal with all this is to inspire and uplift people. That's what I want to do with my music and my blog and my channel. And so this channel is basically an extension of my blog. I have a blog called Wonderneath, and I write about all kinds of stuff like this and the different things that I'm thinking about and dealing with to find success in music and life and just find my way through life. And so I would encourage you to subscribe to that. There'll be a link in the description. It's free. And then a lot of the posts from that, I'm going to turn into YouTube videos and animations and other content. So yeah, be sure to check out my music. You can check out my blog, subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, hit that like, make that like go pew. And yeah, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.